There we go. Welcome, everybody. We're going to start right at 12 o'clock so we can have plenty of time to go through all of our stuff. Appreciate you guys participating in the wellness webinar and now joining today for the follow-up webinar. The workshop before and now the webinar. So thank you for that. We would like to also thank Trinity Health Foundation for their generous grant to make this training and webinar possible. I'm Robin Hamrick, and I'll be moderating today. So I'm the Executive Director of Friends of Tennessee's Babies with Special Needs, and we're hosting this wonderful webinar with the Oaks community. And I would like for everyone, if you have not already, to type your name and your agency in the chat box, if you would. It either come directly to me or to everyone, it doesn't matter. And if you do have a question while we're going through things, if you'll type that in the chat box, then we'll try to address all of the questions at the end of this session. There will be an interactive time that Alicia will be asking people to engage and give some answers. And at that point, if you are going to speak, if you would raise your hand, I'll acknowledge you, and then you can unmute yourself to answer the questions and be a part of that, okay? I would like to introduce our presenters today. They come all the way from Greensboro, North Carolina, the Oaks Community Center there. The founder and executive director of the Oaks Community is Alicia Brown. Wave, Alicia. There's Alicia. She's a licensed clinical mental health counselor with many years of experience. And she recognized that there were very few places for people to receive support that included quality licensed counseling combined with an approach that incorporated biological, psychological, social, and spiritual growth. And her goal for the program is to partner with people to find worth and wellness. And their program is growing like crazy. So it's a great service. And then we also have Christina Leggett, who is the Chief Operating Officer. There's Christina. Christina brings to the Oaks a lifelong passion of helping people, combined with over 15 years of operational office experience. She's finally been able to make her dream come true by combining all of her passions into one as the Oaks Chief Operating Officer. Christina has a true heart for the Triad area, as she was born and raised in Greensboro, North Carolina, and her passion for others has always followed her on and off the mission field and within the community. So we welcome both Alicia and Christina, and I'm going to turn it over to you guys to start the presentation.
All right. Thank you so much, Robin. And welcome, everybody. We're really glad that you're taking the time to jump on here and join us today. And it's so good to be back together. Just in case there's a new person who wasn't at the full day workshop, we want to say welcome to you. And please do reach out if you didn't receive the resource notebook and at least the electronic handouts we could get you at this point. So feel free to email FOT or the Oaks and we'll get that to you. And Christina and I are thrilled to be back on here again for part two, a quick refresher. And I don't know about you, but I feel like time flies. In a way, it feels like 5 minutes since we did the full day workshop, and then it kind of feels like a year. It's both. But I hope that summer for you was just filled with all kinds of things that hopefully strengthened your wellness wheel that we talked about. And I know summer can get kind of crazy too, with tons of travel and less schedule. So we look forward to hearing just how your wheel is right now. And today, three main focus areas are going to be a quick payday celebration, just to refresh your memory on some of that content from the full day workshop, and then also just to encourage continued growth. That's what this whole grant mission has been about, establishing some great knowledge and practical tools, but then we want to make sure there's this sustainable piece of growth to the workshops. And so look forward to that today. I'm excited to teach you one new tool that I think you'll find really helpful to your days and to your wellness wheel. And then lastly, we want to demo the wellness courses, again, for that continued growth way far after this 1 hour. So just a few manners in terms of webinar etiquette and that kind of thing. We did want to make this as engaging as possible. I don't know about you, but I don't love jumping on and just hearing an hour of straight lecture. And so there are different opportunities to do that throughout this hour. I just encourage you to do it at your desire and your comfort level. And that leads me to point 2 for technology. We are not going to freak out about technology today. Just take it at your comfort level and do what you'd like to do in terms of participation in that way. If you are multitasking and eating, we definitely want to see your friendly face. It's easier to talk to actual people, but it's okay if you're up and down and that kind of thing, moving around where you feel like it's going to be distracting to other people, to go ahead and turn your camera off if you need to do that. And then, of course, staying muted unless you're volunteering to speak. Want to give you some comfort. We are not going to just call on anybody. So you definitely will get the chance to volunteer and not be voluntold. It'll be at your choosing. And I think that covers it. So to get started, I'd love for you to just do a quick little check-in on how is your wheel feeling today. You'll see the diagram on the screen. You might be way wonky. If you remember, the outside of that wellness wheel is representing how well we feel. How equipped am I to enter this day and do what's in front of me? So are you feeling way wonky, or are you rolling right along and able to do what you need? And maybe more likely somewhere in between. Go ahead and type in the chat, or just think to yourself, where does your will lie today? You can make up your own saying if you want. I bet there's some creative people in this group. And Robin or Christina, you're welcome to go ahead and call out anything that you're seeing.
So we're getting kind of in the middle.
Somewhere between.
Close to rolling. Yeah, need a little air today. Me too.
Thanks for the honesty.
Curbing in on 2 wheels.
Yes.
Can we get that on a t-shirt?
Yeah.
Need some air. Rolling. Rolling right along. Falling off.
Thank y'all so much. Thanks for your feedback, and feel free to keep typing those as we go. Want to remind you and ask the question, have you thought about how you are? It sounds like such a simple question, but I think a lot of times we go a lot of days without even stopping to pause. How is my will today? How has it been this past week or this past month? So really healthy to stop and reflect on that and think about what you need. Remember, the inside of that wheel are those spokes of a bicycle wheel or a tire that helps to keep that tire strong. And so it can cause us to reflect and have intention on, what am I missing? What power spoke do I need to go to get that little pit stop, strengthen that tire, and be able to keep rolling on some air. So just a thought to get started there. Next, we'd like to celebrate some paydays. That's one of Christina's famous words. She's great at celebrating, and I love to be forced to stop and do that. So as we think about that, we'd love for just 1, 2, 3 people to raise your hand and celebrate any strategies that you're bringing from that full day workshop, where you were able to implement those in some way in your life, or maybe it's one that you thought up on your own, and it wasn't even taught at that workshop. And we'd love to just hear the effect that had on your wellness wheel, and any success story there.
Does anybody have their hand up? Because I'm not seeing one. Who would like to share something? Oh, this is from Julie. Yes, loved the spoke analogy. It helps me balance the strengths and weaknesses.
Great to hear. And do feel free to type in the chat. I know not everybody's dying to voice something with 50 people, and that's fine. But feel free if you'd like to share.
You're welcome to say it out loud. If you want to unmute yourself, you can chime in there.
I'll unmute myself. I can't figure out how to raise my hand. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Karen. Thank you.
Oh, I just loved when you did that square breathing, like breathe in, hold it, breathe out, hold it. I just feel
Yeah.
like my life has been so crazy, and that is a good, like, bring back center. And I just really enjoy that. So I do that many a times. And somehow I'm at this weird stage of life where I wake up several times in the middle of the night, and I do that too. And it helps me go back to sleep, like counting sheep.
Good.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I like sign language clapping. Y'all want to do that?
Yeah.
Anybody else before we move on? Feel free. All right, we'll go ahead on to the next slide. And this is where we're all going to repeat to ourselves, technology will not stress me out. We're going to experiment with something called Mentimeter, and maybe a couple of people have had a chance to use that in a presentation. I really like it for engagement. If you are viewing this on your phone, all you need to do is go open up your internet and go to menti.com and then enter this code if you'd like to participate. And you're about to give just live feedback that is anonymous. It's not tied to you, but it's to answer some question prompts that I'm about to give. If you are viewing this on your computer and you want to just scan the QR code with your phone, that's probably easier. So either way, it'll work out for you, and it's going to bring you to our question prompt. I'll repeat the code one time out loud just in case it helps those. 77685290. All right. So as we think about how we're doing and how we've used wellness in the past 24 hours, and let me just give this little disclaimer first. This is, again, not tied to you, and it's not tallying everybody's results. So it's totally fine if you just sit there and think about it, but you might like to participate. There will be about 4 or 5 opportunities, and we already see results coming in, so that's fun. In the past 24 hours, I built Wellness by, and just watch everybody's collection of things. It's fun to see. We have people reading books. Feel free to type inspirational books in the chat. Might be a great resource to somebody who's looking for one. Going for walks and drinking water. Taking that time to be with a friend. Let's hear it to sleep in 7 hours. Really fueling our bodies with that energy and food. One hope for this is just to remind you that wellness has a lot of different faces. It's not just broccoli and burpees, right? It's not you fail at wellness if you didn't get to exercise and eat healthy today. There are way more ways to strengthen that tire. So be encouraged by how you do it and what your power spoke is. So thank y'all for participating. It's neat to see all those. I love the dots. We're building wellness one dot at a time. So we'll go to the next question. And I'd like you to think about choosing to use my wellness spokes makes me feel fill in the blank. Remember, these are symptoms, almost positive symptoms of when we use wellness. We realize that the impact is this. Awesome. Look at all those words. Really neat to see. I love empowered. I feel like we need to clap. Whoop. And I realize this is not every day all the time, but even burst of this kind of feeling for mental health is so giant. You can be walking through a really difficult time and have 5 minutes of feeling thankful or recharged, and the way that hits your brain just makes deposits in a positive sense for a long time throughout that day. Definitely impacts your overall biological health as well. So just congratulations on all those words that describe how it feels to be well and to feel well. I want to encourage those who maybe haven't felt well in some time. Um, there is hope, and it can be difficult to even fathom feeling energized. I just want to encourage you to keep seeking help, keep leaning on people, and knowing that that is possible again. All right, some possible other areas to highlight in about 3 more minutes of victories and celebrating paydays. I'm wondering if people found a fantastic bathroom system. I know that y'all talked about that, Mickey D stops, and just having to take advantage of those, and that being a barrier to water. Does anyone want to share anything you've discovered in terms of how to consume water and be able to find a bathroom? Let's get practical. I feel like y'all could write a book on that and it would sell. I'm wondering about healthy food strategies, discovering new ways to pack food or ways to fuel your brain in a healthy way that is able to be traveled. If you have tips on that, please type it in the chat. I think that would be neat resources for people to fall back on. It's a constant struggle of mine and Christina's in a busy life, headed to a ball game from work. How do we not eat fast food every night?
We have
Teresa said, I
one
got
comment that says, I got a new freezer bag
Cool.
to keep stuff in.
Congratulations.
Just surveying the travel path and finding those daily bathroom stops.
Yeah. So that intentional planning.
Schedule sessions half apart from end to beginning of next, and locate a Weigels because they are almost everywhere. I keep a baggie with almonds in my car at all times. My hydro flask now fits in my cup holder. I ended up TMI from someone that said, I ended up with kidney stones in the hospital from lack of water and using the bathroom. Now it's priority number one. That came from Karen. Thank you, Karen. Oh, Joy Leninsky said that she meant to do your visits a half hour apart so that she has time to stop. Weigel's bathrooms are always clean. I got a bigger car and now my Stanley fits in the cup holder.
Love it.
I'll say I've noticed too with back to school stuff, there's been really some creative lunch containers I've found, kind of hijacking the kids section of back to school.
Very cool. Maybe you think about those mental health booster bags, and has anybody found a creative way to use those? Even the little slips of paper in them. And if you forgot about yours, where is it and how can you get it out and incorporate it back? And then I look forward, maybe not in this webinar, we don't have time for that necessarily, but as teams try to implement this kind of culture, at your site. I think it's neat to share those victories. Maybe team leaders could share among each other of ways that you've encouraged this wellness growth at your site. It really develops a culture. It's something that we try to keep in mind in the middle of a lot of things at the Oaks. And I think it just naturally grows over time, where you're encouraging each other in all these different ways.
I love
Elise.
Alicia. Sorry, so somebody said, I hung a little slip of paper on
Yeah.
my mirror to remind me. That was a good one.
I think that was a good one. And then
Yeah.
Darcy said she cleaned out her car, which gives her a peaceful setting for the in-between sessions.
Wow.
That's a
Great
good
idea.
one too.
And then stopping at gas stations that have fresh fruit and healthy snacks. Weigels, I think, for a win. Do you guys have many sheets there in that area?
No.
No, is that probably Weigels is kind of gotcha, no sheets. Maybe Weigels is y'all's kind of similar
Mhm.
right there. You've got a lot of the fresh stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome job with all that, y'all. I think we should celebrate. You can twirl in your chair, you can clap your hands, you can do a dance. Everybody celebrate. Congratulations on all that. Keep dancing if you want to, it's fine. We're going to move on to the next section of the webinar, and that is a tool that I'm super excited to get to teach you. And this tool is called the 5 Gears. You'll see the handout on the screen, and those were sent ahead of time. And I also forgot to mention, we have a link at the beginning of the slides to access the handouts, but there is nothing I'm going to cover that you have to have this sitting in front of you. The information is going to be on the slides, and we can still get these to you afterwards so that you can keep them in your toolkit. I love the 5 Gears tool just as a way to be present and productive in our personal and professional lives. We've all been in a season where our days feel like this never ending loop of driving and visiting and doing notes and answering calls and emails and all that before we get back home to our family, and try to pay attention to the people that mean so much to us. And meanwhile, the Oaks is telling us to take care of ourselves and do all these wellness things. So how in the world do we do all that? The 5 Gears tool is a really creative tool that I was introduced to that helps me in that pursuit. It's simple, but it's highly practical. And that's always what I'm looking for a great tool. I wish the Oaks had invented this, but I'm going to give credit here to Jeremy Kubicek and Steve Cockrum, and they own the Giant Corporation. You can look that up online. They have a great online platform of many different tools that you can subscribe to. I think it's about $10 a month. And so a lot of great leadership tools, but I also find them really helpful in a mental health setting and just in our personal lives as well. The QR code on the screen will take you to a podcast that describes the 5 Gears and gives you a nice summary to come back to if you can't get down everything that I'm sharing today. I'm going to mainly hit the highlights. Think about the 5 Gears as a metaphor, right? That shows us how to intentionally be in the right mindset and the right level of functioning at the right time. And you'll see what I mean. You think about it like a stick shift in the car where you have to be in that right gear to accomplish what you're needing at that speed. And I know some of you have never driven a stick shift. If not, you've missed out on the torture story of being stuck on a hill when you're 15 and just freaking out that you're going to roll back into the car behind you, right? Raise your hand if you've been there. If you live in Dandridge, you know that one stoplight hill downtown that is just not where you want to learn to drive. But thanks that I got to learn there. Back to the tool, and it's going to matter in that metaphor. But pay attention. There's some different benefits that are going to come from being able to use this tool. Those include greater awareness. What am I doing at that time of day and why? It's going to help us pace our day. It's going to protect our mental health and helps patch these wonky wheels where we've been, 80 miles an hour for 5 years and our tires are basically gone and our engine's burning out. We have to learn to pace that. And when we learn to control the stress that we allow to hit our brain, it has huge impacts on how we feel. So this will have practical application strategies for work-life balance. So I'm going to teach you about each gear, and you're going to naturally be thinking about how you function in each one. So a couple of things as we learn the gears. Think about this. We lose influence with those around us by being in the wrong gear at the wrong time. We lose influence by being in the wrong gear at the wrong time. We gain influence, we gain productivity, we drastically reduce stress and conflict when we can operate in the gears at the right time. That's what we're seeking. So in that first gear, this is known as the recharge mode. That involves rest, preaching to the choir here, self-care, reflection. This can look different for each person. A lot of times it's done alone, but especially for an extroverted person, it actually can feel good to be with others in a way that gives energy. Anything that's recharging you. An example for you in this mode might look like a quiet time before the day starts. I shared in that workshop that's my power spoke. I've got to have that long time in the morning if I can carve it out where I'm quiet and doing some things that I love. It might be driving to that first home visit if you don't have time at home or wake up late, but with real intention of resting and recharging. Maybe it's listening to music between visits. Walking in the mall is one where you can be around people, but that's recharging to you. Maybe you're listening to relaxing music with your earbuds. Is that what they're called? All right, so think about for you, what is a recharge mode? You may not have thought about it in a while. Second gear, that's our connect mode. And that's where we're engaging in deep, intentional, meaningful conversation, really connecting with those in our lives. It involves being fully present. And an example of that might be like being present in that conversation with a parent where you're interacting with them on that home visit, really focused on the connection of what they need. Or the child, right? Working with them on skills and just really focused at their motor movements. It might be a date if you actually get to have one with a spouse or a best friend where you're having a conversation about a deeper subject and not just what the next schedule is, right? So think about for you connect mode. Gear number 3, social mode. This is casual connecting, all right? Small talk where we're building rapport. It definitely does strengthen relationships and it's used in networking beautifully. But it's where you're just chit-chatting with colleagues at a ball game or at a networking event. Just friendship. All right, social mode. Number 4, task mode. This might be my favorite. Maybe not favorite. But I tend to operate in this one a lot. So this is where we're knocking it out. I know Christina's about to jump out of her chair. Master at task mode. Getting things done efficiently, multitasking, knocking those emails out, and just getting it done in this mode. We all tend to operate, especially adults, a lot in this mode. It can lead definitely to overuse of that gear and burnout, and we'll talk more about that. Some examples of this for everyday life is like driving between visits while you're mentally preparing for 17 other things to come, right? You know how that feels. Answering emails while you're trying to clean the kitchen and cook and do laundry or you're at a sporting event and you're trying to catch up on your emails, that kind of thing. Multitasking. All right. 5th gear, focus mode. So this is where we're really in the zone. It's where we're doing deep work that's distraction free, uninterrupted. This might look like writing notes after a visit where you're not checking your phone every 30 seconds. It might be doing a lesson plan for a family that kind of like zone in and focus. Maybe annual or quarterly planning if you're a leader. Family financial planning, like let's sit down and figure out where we're headed. Even like a vacation itinerary. I just planned one out west, and that took me some hours of major focus to get that down and get it done. All right, last gear, reverse. This is otherwise known as a responsive mode, and that's where we repair and apologize and have an ability to back up and admit our mistakes. Jeremy Kubicek talks about how this really restores trust and increases our influence when we can shift into this gear well. It can be really difficult, especially when you're a perfectionist and don't love to make mistakes, and definitely don't love to admit that you made mistakes. So think about that for you. This could look like reflecting on maybe how a home visit could have gone better. Let's say you were really scattered and tired and distracted, and you need to take a second to think about what could I have done to plan differently for that? Did I plan well? Was I flexible to the parents' concerns? Was I quick to speak when I really could have waited there? This is also great for our family, right? Where you're exhausted, your will is wonky as can be, and you say something you wish you hadn't have said to that child who needed 17 things right then. And then you regret that, and you want to come back and be able to reverse and apologize for that and rebuild that relationship. Huge gear that can be difficult to shift into. So I think this is a neat time for reflection as you soak this in. Remember, every gear has value. The trick is using the right one at the right time. Most of us overuse a couple of gears and then will underuse others. And for many adults, that first gear is really the hardest but the most needed. And so let's use our Mentimeter strategy again, or you can type in the chat box, or you can just think. And for you, think about which gear is most natural for you. So the recharge or that connect one where you're just really on a deep level with somebody, or the social where you're just hanging out and chit-chatting. See a lot of task modes where you're knocking it out, getting it done, or the deep focus. And who's good at reverse? We need to know about that. That's natural for you. Give you a little bit more. Think about that. So pretty spread out in variety in what's most natural. And that's neat to see. All right, let's go on to the next one. Think about if you looked at your gears in a day, which one do you use the most? That's different. And as you're thinking about that, you might consider, are there different areas that I can tweak where I get to use a gear that is more natural for me? So neat to see. And, like I said, a lot of adults are kind of forced into that task mode. There's so much to accomplish. It can definitely feel like that every day. And so we're forced to use that task mode to get through it all. All right, and the last one, which gear is hardest for you to shift into? Maybe think about, consider why. So a lot of people expressing that focus mode can be difficult, likely from how many distractions enter our days and how many times we're asked to change our attention. All right, thanks so much for your participation and feel free to keep thinking on this. So where do we go from here? There are some pieces that I'd like to talk about, just more with the gears and some common problems that we can think about here, how we might want to adjust. And so one is being in the wrong gear at the wrong time. We are constantly juggling logistics and relationships. And so switching gears with intention really, really helps that. It can keep our work life from bleeding into our personal life and vice versa. I don't know how many of you have teens that are texting you at work. You know, now that kids and teens have phones, we're constantly available to them. And so it can really blur those lines. When we switch gears with intention, it helps us to protect our emotional energy. For example, when a home visit is really intense and you know that need of like, I've got to shift out of this fifth gear. I've been just in it for, 50 minutes, let's say. And so when we get in the car, we call a friend and we're like, just talk to me about anything else besides something heavy. Like, or sometimes it's, I need to talk about this something heavy. So everybody has a need there. When we can switch gears with intention, we avoid drive-by relationships with our families, for example, like if we're always in fourth gear and just staying on that burnout fourth gear too long. Examples of being in the wrong gear at the wrong time might look like that person in the social setting who constantly wants to talk about work and even the hard thing at work, and you're like, I'm just trying to take a break. I'm trying to have just an easy, good time. Or I've seen like in a staff meeting, there's a person that like always wants to be in social gear and they'll tell a long story or like a joke that's completely off subject at the time because they love that social and just foster and flourish in that. And meanwhile, the type A people are like, can we just get through these agenda items? So this really comes out in our relationships. Jeremy tells a neat story about a sign language that develops as you start to learn this culture and adapt it to your workplace, let's just say. So he had a guy like that would come into a party hangout and be like, hey, can I just talk to you about this problem we're having at work? And all he had to do was throw up a three. And I don't remember his name, Mike. Mike was like, oh, right, right. Hey, how's that football game going? And so immediately, just with that sign, could shift into the gear for the setting. So think about that for you and the implications of that. I think it's neat. Like, for example, at home, you might teach your kids to catch you and shift you down. That's a good one. It takes a humble person. But really can help relationships. If you're one that's like, okay, I got to get to these 17 bullet points in this conversation with my 17-year-old, guilty. Have him be like, Mom, you're in for too much, and get feedback on that. I've seen families implement a quarter jar where when the kid catches you, or vice versa, if they've been in first gear way too long, you can say, we need to get to four. And just kind of catch each other as you work on that skill. My struggle, would be a fifth gear focus. I love focus mode. I love knocking out a deep think on a project, but I can stay in that for far too long at work and not be available enough, to my team. And also in a supervision session, for example, I supervise counselors, and when they sit down, I'm like ready to go, and focus on clinical skills. But I've learned to even set an alarm, like 10 minutes before that meeting coming up, and get out of my focus zone and start thinking about that person I'm about to see, and how can I connect with them in a social way. I don't love the chit chat. I love deep connection and, going deep with somebody, but like the talk about the weather is not natural for me at all. And so I have to really work hard at that gear. Let's say we spend 3 to 5 minutes in social gear. I've learned it does increase my influence with those counselors that I'm training, because they know I care about their life and they get to learn a little bit about mine in just 3 minutes. And then we can work hard and focus the rest of that session. So think about how you're working on that. Phone calls are another way. I think this is a neat trick that Jeremy teaches, where let's say you're driving home and you're trying to make those last 4 phone calls or just one to accomplish what you need before you get home. He started picking a trigger point. So he chose a location that's about 7 minutes from his house. And when he gets to that landmark on the way home, he intentionally gets off the phone, and starts to shift his mind toward that connecting gear, so that when he walks into his house, he's in more of a mindset of, I'm ready to love on these people and hear what they have to say, versus thinking about the conversation that I just had. I think that's a really good technique. This might look like intentionally not answering work calls, when you're trying to be in second gear with your husband or child. It's a tough one, right? When work feels so pressing. It also can be the opposite. Text boundaries with your kids while you're at work. We deal in pretty stressful work that takes a lot of focus. And so I've established a boundary with my kids where they know an emergency way to get to me. They call me twice, but they know that I'm not going to answer text all day long. They know that they can call Ava, our administrative assistant, and get somebody if they really need it. And then thankfully, we have family that is more available every second. But, that's a way where I've expressed love, and, I have your whole interest at heart, but I can't be available every second of the day. And I love you. It's okay to say that in order to keep our brains healthy. When we're operating in that fourth gear mode all day long, adrenaline is constantly hitting our brain, translating through our central nervous system, and just flooding our body with adrenaline that causes lots and lots of problems. We all have to be able to function in that sum, but then have to find a limit where we give our body that first gear rest, recharge, social connecting time. A couple more quick tips. At the office, you might develop like a number 5 sign on the door when you really need an hour, 2 hours to knock out this project, and where it's common knowledge. I've seen this done with cubicles even. So somebody knows when they approach the cubicle and it's a 5, it's not time to ask about some random simple problem. It can wait. Think about it for your emails. I know that's in notes. We're forever fighting notes. So we share in your battle with that. But think about your boundaries around those notes and when you're doing them, and what is most effective for you. Can you set aside a focus time where you can carve out uninterrupted? Maybe you're at a fresher brain when you set that time. Likely you can accomplish the task faster. When I check emails, sometimes I have to do it on Sunday night. I'm intentional about when I send those emails. And so like I'll send them then, but I program them to not get to the person until sometimes like 10 a.m. the next day, because I don't want to shift the rest of our staff into a gear that they don't need to be in, thinking that they need to respond to me when I send that email. So just simple things like that. All right, I want to be conscious of our time. I just encourage you to keep thinking about that for you. This core process that you see on the screen can help you call attention to what's going on with changes that you need to make. And then the O is own it. Admit why that change is hard. Why is that a growth area for you? And then respond, choosing a specific change that you want to make and then executing it. Just put it in your schedule and try it. It may not work, and that's okay, but it's the intentionality of building it in and trying it. And it's a way to take care of yourself. So CORE, CORE. Want to remind you of this wheels in a system mentality. We covered this in the workshop. Remember, we all have a wellness wheel. And then when we're in context with work, home, or social, we're all bouncing off of each other, right? And having an effect on the other. And so the healthier our will can be, and those of our family or friends or our team, really determines the culture of that workplace. And mastering the gears mean that we show up as our best self. And that's a goal that I want, for my family and for my colleagues, and definitely my friends. I want to show up as the best version of myself as much as I can. I love this quote. Every gear has its place. The power comes when you choose the right one at the right time. I do want to encourage you to fight guilt here, okay? Like, oh, I'm never going to get this right. It's easy to have that mentality when we feel overloaded and like I can't tackle one more thing. And that's okay. Even if you make one choice today or at some point this week to think about what gear you're in, that's a giant victory. This is a long-term solution. So I hope you enjoyed this tool, and it's something that you can start to use and implement in your everyday, just one step at a time. Now, for the last section of our webinar, we're going to look at the Oaks Wellness courses. Those were mentioned in the full day workshop. And I don't know if anybody's had a chance to try them. I hope you have, but definitely understand if you haven't. But we wanted to present this here at the end because, like I said, the goal of this is sustainable wellness and way past that full day workshop and the 1 hour webinar. The Oaks Wellness courses are something that we got to create several years ago and just loved every minute of it, except the technology part, as we got to make these with a company. And so the sheet you see on the screen and the handout that you got has the access code. The website that you type in is there. And I'm going to demo these because I think it can be a little intimidating to navigate. And I want to make sure that you feel like you can get there. So once you type in that website, it's going to bring you to this guest area. And all you have to do is type in a password there, wellness courses, all lowercase, one word. And it's going to take you to this landing page. And you can read the background. The whole thing is based on the wellness model that we've been teaching, starting with module 1 as the introduction. And then each module focuses on one of the spokes, the 8 research-based spokes that the Oaks made. And so, for example, if I click on that first course, it will come up on the screen. And probably my only negative to these, it takes a little toggling, I guess you could say, and you may have to find these start buttons. So you click start and it takes you to the next screen and you just work your way through these courses. I think it's way easier to navigate on a desktop or a laptop or a tablet. On a cell phone, you have to scroll over and find the picture a little more than I would like. And so it's not something that's ideal for a car because of the having to hit the next button. We don't want to endanger anybody's life. But you just hit continue and then you can play the video right there. Once the video's finished playing, you'll see a next button and it just takes you through the course. There is a menu in each one, so you can skip to the different sections. You can skip the knowledge check questions. All of it is freed up for you to be able to go where you want. And then one other thing to mention is each course has a complimentary worksheet, and you can find those here. And when you click on it, a PDF pops up and you can print that, or you can fill it out while you're watching the course, or not at all, whatever works for you. So different ways to use these, you can do them by yourself, of course. You can set a goal to want to knock out like one every 2 months, for example. We've seen teams implement this together and maybe commit to doing one every 2 months and then meeting for a lunch and learn to talk about what that course was like for you, what was challenging, trade tips and practical strategies as you try to implement those into your life. We've seen friends do this just in partners, pair off and tackle that together. And just any kind of accountability can help you as you work through those. So just to conclude our presentation, I want to hit a few last pieces. And that is that we would just love to continue to be your partner. We're going to miss y'all. This is a special group. And this is a way that you can connect to us. If you find yourself just kind of in a rut and stuck, tires missing, and you want some individual wellness consulting, remember that we do that and are allowed to do that across state lines. All you have to do is reach out to our website or our main number, and we would love to help you with that. It's a great time to follow us on social media at Oaks Community. We post several days a week about different wellness strategies, and so those are easy, just to get on your phone and connect with us. You can enter your email and receive our newsletter updates, and that's another way. We're really making some great strides in the social media and media department, so you'll get a lot of content that way. Lastly, we would love to have a review from you if these sessions have added value, and we'd love feedback on that. We are going to give one free drawing for an Amazon gift card for anyone who does that by tomorrow morning, and so just thank you for that. The only reason I love Google is because it does drive people to our counseling website, which helps people get connected to help. I love thinking about that, connects people to counselors. So that's Google reviews. And then we'd love to hear feedback from you. This QR code is how you'll access the survey from today. And we would love for you to do that. You can also type that website into your browser and be able to knock that survey out. I think it's just 10 questions. So really quick to do. And then the post survey for the grant will be sent out as soon as possible in an email. We really, really value your feedback for that so that we can give Trinity Foundation some very good feedback. They've invested in this, and we're really grateful for that. And just in conclusion, thank you. Thank you for the inspiration that you've given us. Remember, progress, not perfection. Something we say all the time. We work on it every single day. You are absolutely worth working on, and you're making an incredible impact on families and on your own family. And so take care of yourself so you can show up the best for them. And we're so thankful to get to work with you all. So that's goodbye for now, and reach out anytime, and I'll turn it over to Robin for any concluding remarks.
Thank you, Alicia and Christina. That was really, really good. I don't see any questions so far in the chat. So if anybody has a question, you're welcome to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask that, because we have a few minutes. We have about 5 minutes left. We've got some comments coming in saying, gracias, it was a great meeting, amazing. Thanks for the encouragement and strategies. Very good strategies. So that's all we have. You will be receiving probably within this next week, the post survey, which is the same thing as you took before. We started all of this just to kind of see if there's been progress that's been made towards your wellness. And so we appreciate you taking the time today to be here. Thank you so, so much. And we've got some other comments. It's just saying thank you so much and thank you for the practical ideas. I think I just need to listen to Alicia's voice on a loop. You're very soothing, kind, and assuring. Lovely. So
Thank you, Jackie.
so everybody go and have a good day. Be blessed, my friends, and we appreciate you joining today. That will conclude. I'm going to stop the recording button.